Views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again. As my spirits guide.
And welcome to Soul Chat. My name is Jane McGuire. And my co-host is Elena Risto.
I'm waiting for my trigger. It's Elena Risto.
Elena Risto.
It's been wonky. All day. And it's the energies. It's really weird.
It has been. But today we've got a topic that I think should be pretty interesting. We are discussing past lives. Why are they important? Or are they?
Or are they important? How are they important? I think that's how we put it on the thing. Yeah.
And so just while we've got you here, also feel free to like our Facebook page. It's called Soul Chat. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So like
SOUL, not SOLE.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not a cooking show.
No.
So it's Soul Chat. Before we get into the topic today, I do want to remind our listeners that you can still get Elena's song, Here I Am. And how do they do that?
They can either email me at info@shamanicsong.com. And everybody wonders how to spell shamanic. It's SHAMANIC.
Got it.
SONG. Yeah.
Or if you're on our Facebook page, on either our personal ones or the radio show, send Elena a message.
Yep.
And she'll get it to you with a code that you can input when you go to download the song. Now, this is actually a beautiful song. And so you guys only ever hear just the first verse. And it is called Here I Am. I think actually we played it all the way through a couple shows ago, didn't we?
I don't remember.
Yeah, you were there. I think you were there.
Ask George. He's always here.
Well, so if you have some experiences or some stories that you want to share, or thoughts or questions about past lives, are they important? Why are they important? Do they exist? And so on. Please feel free to call us at 702-609-7626. That's 702-609-7626. And if you can't call in on a regular landline and you've only got your computer, feel free to sign in to Skype, and in your search bar in Skype, type in All Talk Radio, and that will also get you on the show as well. So we're going to keep George busy, hopefully today, answering the phones and maybe even telling us some of his past lives experience. I think that you were a belly dancer in a past life, George.
Where the heck did you pull that up
I
from?
just thought
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know. I
don't know. It had something to do with that. What was the white T-shirt and the big belly?
There you go. Yeah.
The Buddha belly guy.
The Buddha belly guy.
Buddha belly. Yeah.
So, but there was a video posted on our Facebook page about a little boy.
Now, I couldn't get to the video, but they had written it. They had scripted it out.
Yes.
I mean, they wrote it out.
Yes.
So I never saw any video on there.
It is on.
But it was very good.
It's on ABC News Primetime, and it's about a little boy. I think his name is James. That tells his story. It's about a 14-minute story, so it's definitely worth it if you have the time to watch it. Not during our show, but but it was put up there for all you listeners to do your homework. And so this story is about a little boy that was born to your average, normal American family. Mm-hmm. And at about age 2, he started drawing planes. Now, I was a preschool teacher for 25 years. At age 2, kids are squiggling with crayon and not drawing actual shapes. They're just squiggling. But he started to be able to speak about airplanes, all this kind of thing. And this goes on for the next few years. He's able to identify all the fighter planes that the Air Force uses. He's able to identify the planes that the Army uses.
He was using terms that most people don't know. In fact, he used one, I don't remember what it was. he saw something and he said that's blah blah.
Right, and this is before he got to school. So this is he has not had formal education on World War II.
And his parent didn't know
right
what he was talking about, and they looked it up and they were floored because he did.
Because his terms were accurate.
And then he remembered two people that they did some research, and those two people had existed.
And actually, I believe one of them is still alive.
I think so.
Because they actually, the family, the father and the mother took him to where he had actually he had this past life in World War II as an Air Force pilot, and he was shot down over somewhere in Europe. And he got to that place where he was shot down, and on the video, the boy actually breaks down into tears and cries uncontrollably.
And they talked about it. There was a certain age, and I think he may have been 7 or 8 years old. He started having nightmares.
Yes.
And so then they took him to a psychologist, woman who sort of specialized not necessarily in past lives, but in that kind of
trauma,
dream trauma, that kind of thing. And as soon as he started talking about it, and started being heard, which many times that's the value of talk therapy, because a lot of people don't feel like they're heard. So once they can start telling their story, then it helps. But then things started calming down for him. And he was able to, otherwise the nightmares started to subside. Very interesting.
And they were
story.
Nightmares of him being trapped.
Right.
And not being able to get out, and his mother would go in and wake him from these nightmares, and he would say, James can't get out, can't get out.
Yeah.
And come to find out, they had researched the name of this person, the fighter pilot that was killed, and his name was James.
Right.
And I don't remember the details of his last name, but it turns out that he was shot down over Europe, and they gave him this memorial. They did a beautiful ceremony with him sending, I guess, a wreath or flowers out to the ocean. And I think there in the story there's this little boy goes someplace else after this and meets somebody that in his past life this man is still alive, obviously a World War II veteran.
It's one of the two people I think that he remembered, and I don't remember the names either.
I don't remember the name, but he's got to be in his 80s
but it's
by
a
now.
very interesting example of people remembering certain things. From a shamanic perspective, since we do shamanic journey and we're considered the healing modality that travels between the worlds. It's like that is still going on. And of course, if you get into quantum physics, everything is going on. The past and the present and the future are all happening at the same time.
I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, well, I can.
I'm sure you can, but I mean, I can't begin to think that me 40 years ago is still alive and in that 40-year ago dimension. I just can't wrap around
it. Or that you 20 years ahead in the future is listening.
See, right.
Yeah, see, that blows your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
It's too, too much. We would need an expert to come in and talk about that.
It could make your head hurt, but it's all based in, if you want to look for a scientific explanation, it's based in quantum physics.
Right.
Which is a whole different deal.
Now, before I became a professional psychic, I was interested, and I still in some manner follow Doreen Virtue. And as I've mentioned before, she did study pranic healing under Master Choa Koksui. But years ago, when I was listening to her on Hay House Radio, she actually did a guided meditation online. It was a past life meditation. So I decided, what the heck? See what's going on, see what's happening. So I participated in this, and it was really neat because I didn't have to do anything special. I was just in my room listening to the computer and doing this. And so I was listening to it, and I got taken, as a lot of people would say, out of my body, and taken back to a time that I would say is probably the 1800s, and definitely here in America. I don't know where, and that doesn't really matter. But I was Native American, and I was a young lady. I was about 23, and I had fallen in love with some white cowboy, and he was the one that killed me.
I think it's called Dancing with Wolves.
There you see, but this is years after. That wasn't even on my, that wasn't on my mind. It was more.
Yeah.
It was just interesting. And then at the very end of the meditation, what Doreen Virtue did was she had you go back into that past life again and say, can you please bring through all the positive information and incorporate it into this lifetime, so that I can use it. And at that time, I was just starting to get into aromatherapy. And of course, what do the Native Americans? They're known for using herbs and all that.
Well, plant medicine.
Plant medicine.
Plant medicine has been, that's the only medicine that was long before the drug companies came into being. That's what they had.
Right.
They used what they knew, and it was handed down.
Yes.
through the families. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So past lives, I have never paid a whole lot of attention to past lives. I don't have any specific memories of being Native American.
Well, this was a meditation. I don't think if I had done it any other way.
Well, but there is a process of doing a past life regression where the value of it, as I understand it, is to go back and get information that's going to be helpful to heal things in this lifetime.
And that was again where Doreen
Right.
Virtue was coming
Right.
from, to heal past wounds that we can carry in with us through, when we're born.
Now, I have worked on people where what has been recommended when I do the journey for the person to find out what is it I need to do to alleviate this person's depression, whatever it is that they're wanting. And I have had several situations, I think you were actually involved in one of them, where helped me in one of them where the past life, it's like that door wasn't closed. And in this reality, it's really tough to live with one foot in both happenings at the same time if you're remembering them, and it's like leaking through. So I've had situations where I have closed that avenue off so that people can just be here and focus on here, because really we're in this life to heal now.
To heal in the present.
In the
exactly.
present. Now, I do believe in ancestral memory.
Okay. Now in this lifetime we're coming in, is it possible that either with or without ancestral memory that we still have karma, a karmic debt from a past life?
Who knows?
Right.
I mean, none of this stuff is, the only thing you can tell over time, if you want to have proof about anything and say this is exactly how it is you watch different individuals that aren't connected that are getting the same information. And over a period of time, you have a body of information that lines up like near-death experiences.
Yes, because primarily what they say is, well, there was the door or the tunnel.
Right, and there's been enough of those happening.
Yeah.
Now, the Foundation for Shamanic Studies in Northern California, they have been gathering shamanic journeys worldwide for many years to notice what if the patterns, because that was started by Michael Harner, who wrote The Way of the Shaman, who started the Western movement in shamanism. And so they've been following those things for a long time. The only memory that I have that I remember that had a powerful effect on me was I was in 1973, June of 1973. It was the summer solstice, and I was in Norway. And I was on a beach in Norway watching the midnight sun, which is quite an experience because you watch it going like it goes down and then it comes back up again. It never really sets. And I had this overwhelming grief that came over me. And all of a sudden I had this sense of cloaked figures, when they used to wear hooded cloaks down to the ground, and I had this sense of waiting for someone to come that never came while I was standing on the shore.
Interesting.
So, and that was really interesting because at that point in my life, I was going through divorce. So my emotions were really, my first divorce, so my emotions were really raw.
Yeah, I can
really
imagine.
up. And so how important is it to know a past life? Only if it makes this life better.
Or is in some way interrupting this life.
Well, but if you can remember it, and if there's something that you can do to bring that memory back so that you can make this life better, then that's important. That's my point of view. I've never been one to chase the past life. There's a lot of people that do past life regression all the time.
And I was researching this a while ago, just checking into it to see what other modalities deal with this. And there, as you say, there was a lot of people that do hypnosis or past life regression. And there was one case study, and I don't remember the website, where a man just kept having migraines. And I've had friends that have had migraines, and that can be attributed to a whole lot of different things.
A whole lot of different healing modalities. I mean, there will be some people that will say it's a problem for some kind of depossession.
Well, right, right. But what they found out with this guy, she did a past life regression on him, and they actually went back into his most immediate past life, and found out that he had actually been violently killed, with beaten over the head. And which makes sense. And she went in and did whatever she did, is removed it or detached it from him or whatever her modality was, and he's been migraine free since.
So that kind of stuff you can't say definitively what it is, but you got to pay attention to it.
Well, because it was his experience, and
Yeah.
who are we to judge
Right.
his experience? But her website, and I wish I could remember the name of it, had a lot of different testimonials. And really, when it comes to alternative healing, that's really what it's
That's
about.
really
The
what drives
It's
it.
about the
That's one of the
testimonials.
things. And you know, we did a show way back when we started doing the shows here about how do you find a healer? Who do you trust? And it is
Yeah.
the testimonials.
It is.
If you have a trusted friend who has proven to be trustworthy
Mm-hmm.
and they've gone to something and they, you know, it's introduced to you, then that's a
Right.
good way to find
Right.
it.
You
But-
know, one healer, and that person's going to know someone in their network. It's like you and me. We know many healers and people that we refer
Right.
to people because they do things we don't do.
Right.
So, in pranic healing, the teaching is that the past life energy, not the person itself, if you will, is located in what we call the basic chakra at the base of the spine. So sometimes when I'm working on clearing somebody's chakras and I'll get a message, this needs to be cleared, and I feel that it is a past life or something like that. There's a different set of techniques for that in pranic healing than there is for just cleansing the basic chakra. It's a whole different set of techniques. So it's interesting because, again, sometimes I'll get images and sometimes I'll get you know, I don't know if you want to call them flashbacks or whatever, and I'll ask the person without telling them what I'm seeing, are you afraid of heights? Do you not like water? Are you claustrophobic? Because I will have seen what that past life is that I'm removing. Do we have a phone call? We do not have a phone call. Why don't we have a phone call?
I don't really care.
The number, if you have any comments or any kind of experiences, is 702-609-7626 if you've got something to share. Or you can go sign into Skype and type in All Talk Radio in the search bar in Skype if you've got something on this that you want to share.
Past lives is a huge industry.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But the Hindu belief is
Yeah.
very, you know, a lot of people when they talk about past lives, the first thing they jump to is the Hindu religion. I don't mean Buddhism, but the Hindu. And they believe a lot in karma, and you know, if you're not treating the cow right and you do something wrong to the cow, you're going to come back as
Well,
an
it's
ant.
considered it's considered
Yeah,
a god.
it is a sacred animal.
It's
Yes.
a sacred animal for
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So the interesting thing for me is that on the journeys that I have done, I have journeyed to my ancestors. In fact, the group that I just had last Sunday, we did a journey to our ancestors to ask them, what did you do on the equinox?
Oh, okay.
Which was interesting. And so I've journeyed to the ancestors, and I've journeyed to my descendants. So for me, a past life situation, it's like a linear. It's not a linear time thing. I mean, it's a very fluid thing that's happening. And I would suppose, if you believe in karma, that the past lives you could remember several,
Yes.
because people can live through many lifetimes to deal with karmic debt or karmic fate of some kind.
And I know that you do also curse work.
Yeah.
And I know that you've removed curses from several people. And from what I've seen with that does involve past lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way that things can come into play with that. And
Yeah.
then you actually have a technique for that.
Yeah, well, I have a technique, and there is a format that I use, but I've removed curses without using that format as well. So
Right.
it just depends. It has to do with the connection to spirit.
Right.
Just like the same way with the person that's doing Reiki, the pranic healing, because it's all about the person being able to connect.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So past lives, you know, and the other thing, and we've talked about this before, it always cracks me up because a lot of people will say, well, you know, I was Cleopatra, or I was Napoleon, or I was, you know, and that always cracks me up because I very rarely run into people who say, you know, I was just a beggar in the street and I lived that way for a long time.
Well,
I don't see that. But, you know, and we were talking about this the other day, there is this thing called the oversoul. That when you pass, this is the theory, and this is channeled information,
Right.
so who knows?
And something similar was channeled to me as well.
Yeah, that when we pass, there might be parts of us that come back that are actually attached to us in this life that have memory of a past life. The problem is when what I see when I'm working with people is if they can, that the effects of that past life are now working in this one as well,
Right.
causing a problem.
Right, and that's where you again have to know what kind of healer
Right.
do you need that can get
Right.
rid of this.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any one way. We've talked
Right.
about that too. I don't think there's any one way to do it, but I'm more concerned if somebody's doing that kind of work, where's their orientation? Are they oriented to the light? Are they oriented to the dark? Are they
Yeah.
where's their orientation? I'm more considered that way.
And I know that well, I think people in my family that have crossed over, I think a couple of them are already back.
It could
I
be.
do, and I have no way to prove
See,
that.
time is such a man-made thing. It's the only
It
real
is.
measure that we have. And if you saw that last movie, Lucy,
I did not see it.
that was a really interesting movie because that was the crux of the whole thing. Was that the only measure that we really have in this reality is time, and something we've created. You get outside of this, and there is no time. There's just
Right. Right, exactly, because outside of
there's
this,
no
with us-
linear time. It
Right.
just doesn't exist. And I'll take people on journeys over there, and sometimes I'll ask them, okay, how long do you think you were gone? Oh, 20 minutes. Oh, it seemed like it was half an hour. Oh, it went too fast. You know, depending. Maybe it was a 30-minute journey, and they thought they were gone for 5.
Yeah.
Or they were gone for 5, and it seemed like it took an hour.
Yeah.
You know, not dragging an hour. There was just so much that happened.
So much information.
And that's because there is no time
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah.
So when people cross over, in my experience, when they cross over and they're stuck, they're attached. They're still they're still attached to linear time somehow. They still think they're still here.
Because they're still using a human mind.
Yeah, human
Yeah,
attachment.
human
Human
emotions.
and energetic. Yeah, energetically to do that. So I was trying to think of some other things that I know people have expressed to me about past lives. I've seen things happen as well when there's been a clearing of sorts. I've also seen things happen. I had someone that I was working on whose husband she had gone on a past life regression. And she came back, and she has scoliosis, a problem in her back.
Oh, that's not
And it just makes it's really miserable. But we were at lunch, and she said, the pain is just really intense. She goes through times where it's better and sometimes where it's worse. But this one was different. Something in the way she said it. She goes, "This is just bad. I just can't get through with this." And what got my attention was I heard in my own head, I heard, "Wow, I really wish there was something I could do to help her." And all of a sudden I went, "Wait a minute, where did that come from?"
Yeah. That wasn't what you thought, right?
Where is that coming from? And she come to find out she had gone on a past life regression with someone who they were practicing. They were taking a class. Now, when you're practicing in a class like that, it's usually in a group, so you've got group energy to help you with that.
Right.
So I think that the process was she was going, the way they took them is they started at the top of a stairway and then they went down. That was the metaphor that they were using. Well, there wasn't enough protection. And so when she came back up, this is what I found, was that there was something, she'd brought something back with her. And then once we removed that, then the pain was significantly different. So there are situations where, who knows what she brought back.
So you close the door to these past life attachments or lessons.
Yeah, and sometimes Vicky, who was on here,
Right,
just
Vicky,
called me the other day.
owner of Well of the Moon, where
Yeah.
I am working now.
Yeah, yep. Vicky called me. She had a situation where she wasn't really she wanted to know what I would do with it. Not that she couldn't deal with it,
Right.
but there was something about it that was special enough. She goes, "I'm not really sure what to do with this." And so we talked about it a bit. And in that case, what I got was that she needed to take that person, like you described earlier, back into that past life. And there was some healing that needed to be done there.
Yeah.
It was leaking over. It was coming over into this situation. And I think it had to do with someone had met someone here who, it's like doors opened in their mind, and it was quite a stunning thing. All this emotion came up that she had no idea, and it's somebody that she hadn't met before, and she heard, you've known this person before.
Yes.
So it was a lifetime
Yes.
where the two of them had unfinished business.
And I've been involved in readings, couples readings, where they've asked, they've come to me and asked, what are our past lives? And I've introduced you to a couple of them. But it is interesting when I get these things, because I'm not attached to it. Whatever I get shown or I hear is what I hear and get shown. It's not going to matter to me. But it is most of the time when that information gets shown to me, there's usually, what I've noticed is that there is a behavior, a fear, or an obsession or something that corresponds with it. Some of the people that I've seen in the past life that have been tortured or something like that have claustrophobia, and don't like the small spaces, or they don't like heights for those reasons.
So it's possible you could have a past life situation, and I
Sure.
know if we could have someone on the show. I mean, I'm sure we can find someone.
I'm sure, yeah, absolutely. That'd be awesome.
That would be fun.
We
It
should-
would be fun to talk to them
Yeah.
about it, because you and I are talking about the things that we've bumped into. Now let's shift this a little bit, because I've read many accounts that Mozart at age 4 was a child prodigy, and there's thought that this is information that's come forward from another lifetime.
Yeah, and I would tend to go down that path and say there are people in this world that are not necessarily spiritual masters, but are definitely channels, and people like Mozart would have channeled some of this divine music through. And I think we have artists that way, painters and sculptures. I mean, look at Da Vinci. How are you going to say he wasn't connected to God with his work?
I know that when I do songwriting, when it hits me, that it's like I have this feeling like I reach my hand up into, there's some force that, like a river above my head, that I'm reaching up, and for a moment I can pull it down and understand what it's doing.
And I know for me, I feel it intensely when I'm channeling, but also when I'm writing. Because there's times when I will be told, you need to write this down, and it will get dictated to me.
So have you written down anything from a past life?
No, I haven't. Haven't done that.
Maybe you didn't know how to write.
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. I know from talking to various people that have done past life readings on me that I've had a couple of lifetimes in ancient Greece, which fits, some of the things that I was attracted to as a child, and I've had a couple of lifetimes in France, and I was told I had at least 4 lifetimes in Ireland, I should say in the Celtic lands. So I'm still connected to that, and I don't think I've had any in Africa, or just again a couple of those in Europe.
Yeah, see, this is where it gets a little murky for me, because I truly believe in ancestral. I believe in the ancestors, and I believe in you can have physical and spiritual ancestors.
Yes.
So at what point do the actual past life, where does that fit in that? Because in that space, I mean, our DNA is how many millions of years old?
Well, I got a question for you. So when you do
like I've got an answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you do a soul retrieval, because you've done a lot of soul retrievals, when you do one of those, has it ever come across where you've actually gotten a piece of the soul from a past life to bring into this current life, or has it always been a soul retrieval in this current life?
No, I can't define it like that, because the language of spirit is metaphor.
Yes. Metaphor and
So
color.
the thing that just came to me while you were asking that is that I did have a woman not long ago that whose brother passed, and he was very ill. He had it really was close to my heart, because he had cerebral palsy, just like my sister did.
Yeah.
And I went and worked with him a little bit, because one of the things that shamanic healers do is that we're all about bringing the spirit here into as much wholeness as we can, so that it's a good crossing.
Right.
Because when it gets on the other side, it's in a good shape, right? So, and in that one, I did this journey, and I found the journey that we do for soul retrieval, and I found these 2 parts. It was a young boy and a young girl, and at the same time, simultaneously, I saw him in prison, that she could not save him. He was in there, he was willing to go there, so she didn't have to go there. So there was a past life thing going on in that situation. But see, I don't get caught in the story.
Right.
What I have to do is I have to stay clear, because what's really important is how is this playing out now. So the play out there was that, interestingly enough, because of cerebral palsy, he was literally trapped in his body. See?
So that goes back to his being in prison in that lifetime.
You could say that, but
Yeah.
that I definitely got that it was the end, that this wasn't going to happen again. That this, if you want to call it a karmic debt or whatever you want to call it, was done.
It was paid.
It was paid.
Yeah.
This was done. So that happened. So I have little snippets of things, but
Right.
I'm not a past life regression person. There are people that are specifically, that's what they do. That's
Yeah.
their healing modality.
Yes.
And if people feel called to it, I sort of meet people where they are.
Yeah.
So if they're called to it, there's some part of them that needs to know that for their healing,
Right.
whatever that is.
Right.
Because if I don't give it to them, they're going to find it from somebody else,
Right,
which
'cause
is
I don't s-
fine.
I-
I may
and
not be able to do it.
There are psychics and intuitives that specialize in that. I'm not one of them. I don't specialize in it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's pretty much when somebody comes to me for a reading, they're asking me the questions, I'm bringing in the information.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be what it's going to be,
Right.
and I have no control over it. But it's interesting though that what I've seen with the clients though is that they tend to have this some sort of fascination.
There is a fascination. I know
Yeah.
that energy you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's like, well, I really want to know.
Yeah.
Is this the guy that I've been in love with before? Is
Yeah.
this, and I don't know.
Right.
Because it's so complicated. The spirit it's so complicated and it's so simple.
And this, of course, this
that's
whole
such a thing.
thing about past life just flies in the face of some very big religions.
Yeah.
It just bumps up against it. And of course, the first thing they're going to do is, oh no, that's impossible. You only live once.
Well, it's even flies in the face of those people that don't believe.
Atheists, you mean?
Atheists, yeah.
Yeah.
I
but
mean,
then
that
they-
really bumps into it
Right,
too,
right.
So,
Right. And then they have to come back again as an atheist.
haha.
Until they figure it out. Right.
Yeah.
And then they have to come back as a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim until they figure it out.
See, I guess I've always looked at past lives like you're looking at a road map. If I'm in San Francisco and I need to get to Chicago, or I'm in Chicago and I've come from San Francisco, why is it important for me to know how I got there?
Because parking in San Francisco is expensive. It's $100 a day to park at
It ain't
Ghirardelli
cheap
Square.
in Chicago either, But you get what I'm talking about as a roadmap. I just kind of looked at the life I'm in now. Let's say I'm in the middle of friggin' Nebraska. Okay.
Forgiving all of you Nebraskans out there that
That's
are now
right.
listening.
I've been.
Right, all two of
I've
you.
driven hours across Nebraska before, and I love it for bird watching in the fall.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time is not so good for me. So anyway, if I'm in Nebraska and I got to get to New York, why would I keep looking back where I've come from
right,
to go
but,
forward? See,
but-
that's my.
But you do that because obviously there's a door that's open that needs to be closed.
Yeah, but if I really wanted to leave San Francisco.
Right. Right. But wherever you go, you take yourself with you.
So I guess what we're bumping up against now is the fascination with past lives, because there is a fascination.
There is a fascination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've never really had it. I've dealt with it,
Right.
but I've never really had it.
And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Is I've dealt with it in my own life, in my work, and I've been with you when you've worked on one and I've supported. So just from our anecdotal experiences, we know that it's possible to have.
In this work, anything's possible.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, who says anything is a certain way? I
Right.
mean, nobody's come back and said, "Yep, we were right."
Well,
All
you
of
were-
those,
You were talking about the oversoul and how people claim to be Cleopatra or Napoleon, and the way it was explained to you is very similar to the way that it was explained to me by Spirit, and that is that we are given pieces of the
There's
soul.
parts of us, yeah.
Parts of us
There's
that
soul
have-
essence, because
Yeah.
remember, the soul is not this defined square with little chunks in it. It's energy.
Well, but we
that's-
do have a soul chakra, though.
That's got a box around it.
It's not when I look at it, but
Oh.
it's got. We do have a physical location of our soul.
We're driving George nuts today. I've watched him shake his head more.
But we have our soul chakra is
It's
located.
been boring today. Nobody's been here.
It's our soul chakra is located behind our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have similar techniques. When you have people go into their inner garden, you have them go across a bridge. I have them go into their heart, and then I have them visualize a bridge, whatever kind of bridge they want, and then go into the soul. It's located directly behind the heart.
Yeah, and depending on who you talk to, Drumvalo
Melchizedek?
Yeah, we were talking about him the other day. Yeah. In his book, The Flowers, the Flower of Life, which did that become the Serpent of Life? They changed the name on it.
I have the book, and I'm on the second time reading it, but it's one of those books where you can read 3 or 4 pages and put it down for 5 months.
Or I wake up at 2 a.m. and it's right here. Yeah, it's falling on my face. Yeah. So anyway, why did I bring him into this?
Because you're talking about past lives.
He talks about the tiny space of the heart. In sacred geometry, there's a tiny space of the heart, which is where the sacred spark resides. So when I'm taking people on a journey, sometimes what I will do is I will take them through the backside of their heart, through the tiny space, to that spark, and have them step into it.
Yeah, and see, we consider that divine spark, we consider that the soul.
So does that spark have memory of all the other sparks that it was?
I think if you go back to the story we talked about at the beginning of the show with that little boy, obviously that past life was something that needed that kind of resolution in his current life. And I think, him going and doing that ceremony in Europe.
Or was the spirit of that person attached to him and saw him as, there's many ways you could come at this.
Right. That's true. That's true. But, the thing is, he's giving, if it was a spirit, he's giving this kid language that he's too young to know. Most people do not study World War II until at least middle school, and then get into it in detail in high school, and then even further detail in college, presuming they go on.
Yeah, well,
high school.
When I was in high school, we were lucky if we got to World War I.
Well, I was at an all-girls Catholic high school. We went from pre-civilization all the way up to current day. So Mrs. Forsyth, awesome high school teacher, if she's still around.
Yeah, no.
But no, it was very, very detail-oriented for us.
So the past life situation is something that can give us information that can help us see. That's where I come from, is if it gives me information that I can use here and now to make my life better, and I can move forward and it advances my soul, then it's a good thing.
And that was my experience doing Doreen Virtue's past life meditation. Was, as I said, I was just beginning to get into aromatherapy at that time. So I think that I got taken back to that particular lifetime where it was, like you said, all plant medicine based, was absolutely in keeping with what I was doing at that time in my life.
Yeah, and see, and like I said, I'm a big one about ancestral memory. I think it resides in ourselves. So and I think and you'll hear me when I'm doing an invocation, when I'm thanking the ancestors, if we're willing to listen, we can hear the whispers of our ancestors.
Yeah, because they don't scream at you. Sometimes they do.
So the other thing is, have you ever heard anybody remember a good past life?
That's a really good question. I
would love it if somebody came in and said, "Hey, I was howdy doody in another life."
I have to say that I don't. That some of the things I don't always get shown the positive things of a past life, because that's not necessarily what the person needs to heal from. Right? So in my life, what I was shown in that particular lifetime was that I was in love. That was information to that. So that was a good part of that life, but what was important was the manner in which I died and who killed me. So I think that I definitely think positive information can come through. But I think you're healing from the stuff because it's leaking through.
Well, why couldn't the good stuff leak through?
I think it can. No, I think it can.
George is on my side on this one, I think.
And we've got all those Bible Christians now just, saying, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that if you have someone who comes in, and there are people, you've met them, you've seen little kids when they pop out. They're just happy little beings,
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what anybody says to them. They just kind of come through. So is that karmic debt? Is that a lifetime coming forward? See, this is all such gray area that it's like
it is.
There isn't anything definitive, except there are incidences where people, having learned of a past life, having been healed in a past life, having somebody go back like myself or you or somebody go back and do the healing on that side, they get better.
Exactly.
There's too much of it that happens that
Yes, it has affected them. Or as you say, it leaks through. So if you heal that back in the ancestral line, then you've really, in shamanic terms or in pranic terms, you've cut the cord,
matter.
You've cleansed the energy, you've done a spirit cleansing, whatever you want to call it.
Right. So there are a lot of things that happen because people remember those old lives. And again, this is where things start getting real fuzzy for me, because this is where words get in the way. We have to have a way to try and communicate that, and many times I just see the energy it's out of balance, and we got to bring it back into balance. And in order to make sense to our logical brains, you know, we have to give it some kind of description, or we can't accept it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You know, so it's really interesting. I was just thinking, I just remembered another one where I removed a curse from somebody recently, and it was an old one. And I told you about this one, where there were 12 women in the circle, and it was in pagan days, and I couldn't figure out, because that 13 was a big number in that belief system. I couldn't figure out who the 13th was. And then as I was driving home, I heard, that's because you were the 13th.
Right, so proving right there that you had a past life that was...
Yeah, and because I was part of that, and I really did go through a couple of weeks. You helped me, where I was really out of whack, because I didn't see it coming at all.
And that's another thing, too, with intuitives, is that, first of all, let's clear this myth up. Spirit doesn't tell us everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it purposely withholds information because physically and energetically we have to go through it.
Well, I don't know about you, but the more I do this work as time goes on, the best way they can get something across to me is by surprise.
Experience. Yes. Or sometimes what I'll see is, if I have a client ask a question, I'll see the finger to the mouth. I'll see this, which means
I don't see anything.
Which
I just
means
feel
I'm not entitled to know, or they're not going to tell. So if you ever do get a psychic reading and a psychic tells you, I can't get that information, she's not scamming you, or he's not scamming you. They're actually, the information is being withheld for a reason that you will understand later.
Well, when I see this, it's like a velvet gray curtain just kind of goes across.
Right. Okay. So it's the curtain for you.
For me, it's the curtain. And what I know is that what's important is this person is going through the process. It's not the end result that's important. It's the process that they're going through. And I have no business with it. I did have a woman that came to me for a soul retrieval several years ago, who had, there is some thought that you can do your own.
Yes, you and I have had this discussion. I have pranic healers work on me. I have you work on me. I mean, I do, meditate. And
I've had spirit take me through my own soul retrieval. I've had it happen once.
Wow.
At least once. Actually, I think I had it. No, I think it's happened twice. But this woman came to me, and she had read a book by a well-known shamanic healer that's well thought of worldwide. Okay, contemporary shaman, and so she attempted to do her own soul retrieval. And what she did was she got all the way back into the situation. And there are different ways to do it. The way I do it is the way that's taught by Sandra Ingerman and the Society for Shamanic Practitioners. And we have a certain way that we do it. But it's really led by spirit when it comes down to it. But she had found herself she got to the place where she found herself where she was totally burnt to a crisp in a cabin in the woods. Oh dear. And it was a problem because she didn't know what to do with it.
She couldn't get herself out?
Well, and she had nightmares after that, and she couldn't. So she came and said, I really, really need to have this taken care of because it was getting in her way. It was a problem. Yeah. And in that situation, she had remembered a past life.
So that's, again, why even healers with different modalities, why we go to other healers. Because sometimes you just can't do that on yourself.
It's and to do a past life regression, to do a past life, to go looking for a past life, I mean, there's a certain thing, at least in my belief system, where you're depending on where you're going. If the energy is out of balance, you don't want to bring anything back. You don't want anything.
Right.
You don't want to bring some kind of energy back with you that you can't use it here. It doesn't belong here.
And that's why you seek the professional assistance.
Yeah. And some people, I would go to a past life regression. Now, I think hypnotherapy. There's a part of there's a lot of hypnotherapists that do past life regression. I
actually had a friend of mine years ago. He studied hypnotherapy. He actually works for the government, but he studied hypnotherapy, and his teacher said that he was so good at past life regression he could go into it for business if he wanted to.
And did he?
No, he's still
Okay.
working for the government now. He does say I still hear from
This
him.
is going to be a past life
I still
regression
hear
if
from
he's
him
working
from
for the
time to
government.
time, and I've encouraged him because he's also a former Coast Guard. But I've encouraged him time and again to go into this when he does finally retire and look at doing this as supplementing, the wonderful pension that he's going to have.
Well, and when it comes down to it, what we're talking about is this is really about bringing energy into balance.
Yeah. And we've talked, even before the show started, we were talking with Carol about how the energy has been out of balance for the last 2 weeks. And this is exempting what you've been going through for 2 weeks and what I've kind of been
Boy,
going
it's
through.
been
been
I've been all over the
interesting.
roadmap.
Yeah.
Other people have been all over the
Yeah.
roadmap. I've had people call up and say, is this going to stop soon? Because it's that deep, for me, it goes back to that full moon in Pisces where all the sensitivity and all the deep healing is happening. And when that does, you get the healing that happens. Now something else has got to come in.
Yeah.
That energy's got to balance out. So we're down to the last few minutes.
Yes.
Let's talk about the equinox.
Oh, yes. Happy fall, everybody.
A fall equinox. This is the day of the year, one of the 2 days of the year, where the sun where daytime and nighttime are equally balanced. You have as much daytime as you do nighttime.
And the next one is summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, summer is
Because winter's the shortest day.
summer's the longest day.
So it would be spring.
Spring.
Okay, because
Yeah.
winter's the shortest day.
Right. And this particular one, it's also when Virgo crosses into Libra. And Libra is the sign of the scales. So this is a
Balance.
situation, something's going to balance, and it's not necessarily to the good. It's going to do whatever it takes. It's like that pendulum that swings that you hear me talking about.
Yeah.
So this has been a really dynamic time, the last 2 weeks since the full moon.
Yes.
And I mean, it started. I've had people, when I did my healing circle on Sunday, I had people there that I had talked to them over the last couple of weeks, and they were, they couldn't believe things that were coming at them.
I just feel
The
like
weirdness.
for me, for my charity work, I feel like I've been put on pause. Just the pause button has been pressed.
I feel like somebody's been playing with mine. On, off, on, off. But I did do a big thing. I canceled my cable TV.
But you also, and I don't know if we should put this out there, you're going to be creating a CD very soon.
Yeah, and that's why I brought that up,
Yeah.
because I needed that thing that I was it's too easy to sit down on the couch, and I know everybody out there is the same thing. It's too
Right.
easy to plop on the couch with a plate of food, turn the TV on, and you're lost for
Right, because actually Spirit doesn't even want you bringing these songs in the house. They want you bringing it in nature, which given the work that you do makes perfect sense.
It does. It does make perfect
and so
sense.
she's going to be, and I've been pushing her for I should say Spirit has gently been pushing her. I've been really pushing her to create this CD because the music and all the sounds are already in her, and I think that if she can do this, I would highly recommend it because I know that this CD that you're going to create is going to be awesome. I just know it.
And so this is why I brought this up, because turning the TV off has created, all of a sudden I'm doing different things, and I'm noticing things that I wasn't noticing before because I was so focused on, and I wasn't even watching anything new, although I did like the Roosevelts. I
saw that initial one.
Yeah. Learned some things I didn't know. But anyway, and too much of anything takes us out of balance.
Yeah, everything in moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm just not like that. If I'm going to sit, I sit. If I'm going to sleep, I sleep. But I've been having some really crazy dreams.
And you're not the first one to say that. I've had some stuff too.
Yeah.
And George is now saying, I do want to say before we go, I have to promote myself a little bit here. I started last week at Well of the Moon. I'm there Wednesdays through Saturdays. The store opens at noon, people, so don't look for me before noon. But I do take credit cards, and you can book me for a reading. This is a different place other than other psychic stores in that it is my cell phone that I will be using for readings and not the store phone.
If you take voice readings, because you have people can walk in and have
People
readings
can
as
walk
well.
in and have readings.
Right.
The store is located on Sahara and Decatur in the Decatur Pavilion South. But yes, I do
It's
phone
the
readings.
southeast corner of Sahara and Decatur.
Yeah.
It's 2650
South
Decatur.
Decatur,
It's facing
yeah.
Decatur. It's right next to K&M Shoes.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'm there Wednesdays through Saturdays. Probably my shortest day is Thursdays there.
And I'm there the first and third Sunday of the month from 4 to 6 doing
what you're doing.
whatever I
And
do.
do we
It's a
have who
healing
do we
service.
have coming up this Sunday at Meadows?
Oh, it's me.
Oh, okay. So we have
It's me.
the Meadows is a retirement community that there's a bunch of us that come together and basically do our modality with a bunch of people, and it's been very successful. So if you're going to be in Las Vegas this weekend, the Meadows is on 2900 South Valley View, and it's a love donation.
Yeah.
And what are you doing Sunday?
We're talking to Power Animals.
Power
I'm
Animals.
gonna
Okay,
talk.
I'll bring my zoo.
Yeah, you do that.
I know.
We're gonna people that don't have them, we're gonna try and find them for them, and set up a relationship because it is a
It
relationship.
is. And are you going to bring
rela-
some animal oracle cards?
Oh, I can. Yeah.
That might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Animal medicine.
Yeah. that'd
So
be
you're
good.
going to be there 2 to 4 on Sunday.
This coming Sunday, the 28th, and the
Okay.
first and third Sundays I'm at Well of the Moon from 4 to
Okay.
6. So
Okay,
that's
from
what's
4 to
going.
6. So you
Right.
were just there this past weekend.
Right.
Next weekend, obviously, is the end of September. And by the time our next show comes around, we will be heading into the mystical month of October.
Yeah, and so let's just say real quickly that we have, I'm not going to say what days because we have to pin them down yet, but we're going to try and have Mary Rose here, who's
Yeah,
a well-known psychic
astrologer.
here in Las Vegas. She
Mm-hmm.
works at Mystic Minds. We're going to have Annabella DeCoro, who does the art of hand psychology. So
Awesome.
we have that. Jane and I actually got together and wrote this all down. Can you believe
Yes.
it?
And
on
and the dinner was a tax write-off.
Yeah, no kidding. And on the 7th, we're going to talk about the full moon again.
Yes.
It's a blood moon. It's a
the
very
last
interesting.
blood moon. It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Yep.
And so,
And we're going to finish up the month
right?
talking about ghosts.
Oh, right.
And we're
right.
going to have Vicky here the week before the 28th. We're
Right,
going to have her here right before Halloween,
There
and she's
are-
going to tell us all about
There are
stuff like
definitely
that,
haunted
so.
places here and in other areas of the world. I know you have this very room, right? I know, George,
Right.
you have a few paranormal shows on here talking about ghosts and hauntings.
That'd be fun.
and
Maybe
stuff.
we could come on. We
yeah,
could have a party
we should
online.
do that.
You know?
By the energy that night would be crazy,
yeah.
right?
I also want to say that Sherry was there, our friend Sherry
Oh, good.
Smith, who does there is a concert coming up, and I forgot to bring the information with me,
okay.
but she asked if we could mention it. If you've never heard a Crystal Bowl concert, you
It's
need to
something.
go. It's going to be October 11th. We'll tell you more
Yeah.
about it. And other than that, you guys have a great week.
Yes, have a
And
wonderful
if you
week.
have weird things happen to you, just know the new moon starts tomorrow.
And like
it's
our
shifting.
Like our Facebook page, Soul Chat. This has been Soul Chat with Jane McGuire.
And Elena Risto.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again, as my spirit's guiding me to a place where I am free to be all that I can be. Here I am in stories that